Hello, good morning. Welcome to my Good Life Meditation. My name is Kurt. This is a daily activity that I do to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone. I'm doing this today from my balcony, so rain is coming down a little too hard to be going out for my walk this morning, although that could have been a lot of fun. The humidity is just right. Have a look. The temperature is 25 degrees and the humidity is just above 90%. That's a good combo for a rain walk. Anyway, I decided to do it today from here. I was making advantage of the heavy downpour to clear the furniture off the deck, give the deck a nice, gave it a nice scrubbing with rainwater, clean it all up. My tea is currently getting saturated with rainwater as well. And I put a couple of bricks up here because I had the camera, the live stream camera, which is running right here. I had it perched up here on the wet desk. I call this my wet desk because it can survive the rain. And I want to keep it from the wind from blowing it over. The wind, some real strong gusts are coming in this morning. It's really coming down. Anyway, so this is an exercise that I do every day, and I begin by saying welcome to new subscribers to the channel, and also a disclaimer that I do talk about sensitive subjects. This is a journal video, so I'll be talking all about myself, and also a huge thank you to my subscribers on YouTube, those who watch my videos, and members on YouTube and supporters on Patreon. I really appreciate your help. Your support. And to the shoppers at my online store. I really appreciate that too. Okay, let's see what my notes have to say today. So I'm going to begin with my review of the last 24 hours. Then I'll go over the creed, and then talk about the day. So in the last 24 hours, I only have two notes here. The first is a note about self-control. Wow, look at this. Wow. Basically, what I mean by self-control is that I'm really becoming cognizant that it doesn't seem to be just a today thing or a yesterday thing or the day before, but my ability to control myself exercise self-control is really becoming keen. And I always thought in the last decade, I thought that I had improved to the point of having pretty good self-control. But now it's become on another level. And I think it's because I'm not distracted by so many things in life anymore. Namely the distractions of the activities of my job, the frustrations, and the distractions that come when a more complicated life offers its complexity, which makes it's easier to be in self-control when life is simple. So that could be an illusion of improved self-control when, in fact, it's simply a dialing down of the stimuli that needs to be controlled. That's an inner. I didn't think about that until just now. That's got to be it. That's got to be exactly what's going on. Because I haven't outwardly improved anything in my way of viewing the world or interacting with the world. I'm still doing things largely the same. But why all of a sudden? You would think that if it was related to retirement, that it would have started 6 months ago. Well, here's the difference. I know that I'm being more conscious of it in the moment. Like, at least twice yesterday, and a couple of times the day before, I was out and about doing stuff, and in the very moment that a challenge arose, the little, I'm going to use the word demon, but it doesn't mean like a demon with a pitchfork. It means like a little background process, a little demon inside my head that runs to be aware of challenging moments was like, oh, okay, Kurt, here comes one, way ahead of time. It was like a crossing guard, seeing, we're responsible to husband children across the road, and spotting a truck barreling down from the distance and say, okay, kiddos, step back from the curb, rather than in the moment just before the truck gets there, which is what usually happens. Okay, that's also true. That's the difference. I'm seeing these things sooner than before. It's almost like Nemo now in that movie. What was it called? Dodging the bullets. That's how it feels. That's not. Could I attribute that to freedom as well? Perhaps. Maybe it just took me 6 months to catch up. Anyway, for whatever it's worth, it's happening now regularly and consistently throughout the day. And it's a very welcome change. Oh, here comes a real gust. Look at the water coming off the eaves. That was the first note. So self-control seems to be increasing noticeably in the last, I would say, 3 or 4 days. And at first I thought it was an anomaly. I thought it was, well, I'm just having a really good day. I'm top on things. And then I thought it was, I was just getting lucky. But now it's been consistent. Yesterday really opened my eyes. I have a subnote here in parentheses. I can't quite make out what it says. Self-control was the first note, and then something in parentheses. What is this? Can't make that out. Okay, the second thing is, one of my objectives is the good and effective use of time. It's the second objective in my creed. And that too seems to be resolving down into better and better uses of time throughout the day. What's really interesting, and Tim left a comment. Tim is a regular person who joins this live and regular viewer, and leaves very insightful comments, and which are particularly interesting because Tim and I are both retired and having this experience. And Tim made a comment about how he was worried before retirement about money, which I was too. Would it all balance out? And here's the thing that I was thinking about. It was actually because of Tim's comment, which I read and responded to this morning, that I was realizing that not only was money. Well, here's the thing. I was worried before retirement. I was worrying about money from the perspective of someone who was in the working paradigm, and I had a lot of expenses, gasoline to go back and forth to work, even though I largely telecommuted, nice clothing to wear to work, and a lot of little expenses. But here's the interesting thing. Maybe an incidental expense. Well, my tea is getting overwhelmed. Okay, this is an interesting one. I don't spend money as a pastime or recreation anymore. It used to be that I would buy things and kind of for pleasure, not a lot, and it became less as I got older. But sometimes it's like, you know, what do they call it, retail therapy? No wonder that's how our houses get full of all that crap, right? I don't do that at all anymore. I mean, I go days without spending any money at all. And you may say, well, how do you eat? Well, my wife spends the money for the food, so I literally don't have to spend money on anything except anything that I want to do. And I don't spend money anymore. And I have no desire to. The only thing that I really spend money on now is two things. I make purchases relative to my business, my antique business, so I'll buy antiques. I'll have to pay for the postage to ship things, but that's all kind of handled in a separate budget. You know, I actually have a separate bank account set up to run the business, and all the money all that money happens in a separate little universe, walled off from me. You know, I even have a separate little purse that I carry around, a small little purse that has all the business money. I don't carry any money for myself anymore because I don't basically spend any money. I do, the second thing that I spend money on is like yesterday, I pulled over with Yumiko. We were driving and I pulled over to 7-Eleven and I said, let's have ice cream. And we went in and we got ice cream and we sat in the car and we had ice cream together. But that wasn't because I wanted to, that wasn't a retail therapy moment. That was a let's enjoy the moment together moment, right? And I probably wouldn't have done it if I was alone. I literally did it so that I could extend the moment of being with my wife a little bit longer. Take a look at the storm. Wow, this bucket, I just drained it just a while ago. I was washing the deck here. And it's almost half full already. And the live camera is still running. And little Rudy's taking it easy. Hi, Rudy. It's already full. That's pointing at me now. This was empty 5 minutes ago. I was using it to clean the deck. Take a look at the humidity's above 90% now, and the temperature's at 25 degrees. Perfect weather to be out on the balcony in the rain. I think that's it for the notes. Still don't know what that parenthetical note is about. Oh, I hadn't finished talking about the good use of time. The antique business more and more is emerging to me as a really good use of time. That's because I don't think I've been able to successfully break myself of the workaday life. I still do better if I have something to wake up and do that feels like work. And what feels like work? Well, something that is constructive, that improves things. And I like, believe it or not, I'm surprised to say this, I like making money. I never thought I would be that guy, but there you go. And the business is doing well. The tea especially. I keep selling out. I've sold out 3 times so far, and it hasn't even been a week. It's been about a week. And the tea supplier, they seem really excited that to expand their business in my direction. I'm only offering tea in tea bag form right now, but they offer all kinds. I can do loose tea, all kinds of stuff. So this is a good use of time. And I'm treating the days more like work days now. But what's really nice is that to not have to be weighted down with the pressure of needing to make a living, right? So I can do it, and I've talked about this before, I can do it and do it in a way that is fun and remains fun. So I think I've talked enough about all that. The creed. So my creed consists of 8 objectives. The first and foremost is that I need to be living in my moments prepared for death. Now, I don't believe in God or an afterlife or a soul, so I don't think that there's anything I need to do to prepare myself for any afterlife, because I don't think there is such a thing. So my attention is on the practical, it's a secular perspective. So what I have to answer 3 questions. Are my affairs in order? Are my relationships in good shape? And how about the things that are important to me that I would call my life's work? And I have to say yes to all 3 of those to be ready to die. And they are all yes. Sure, having one's affairs in order means not just succession. It just doesn't mean that when I die that my wife will be taken care of for the rest of her life, although that is really important. It also means, what am I going to do and some of you have helped me to see this through your comments. What am I going to do in the event of catastrophic disease or some sort of incident that takes my wife Yumiko or I out, or incapacitates us? What are we going to do in that case, right? What if one of us has a long protracted disease leading to death, or not death for a long time? What about that? And I must admit that was I didn't have that basis well covered. But again, the scope of that objective is death, to be ready for death. So I guess, to be fair to my creed, that particular objective didn't cover that, but it does highlight an uncovered element of my my attempt at having a creed that is as encompassing as possible. So I need to cover that base. And I'm working on it. I'm coming up with ideas, and Yumiko and I have been talking about it. She's not as want to talk about these things as I am. Yumiko's approach to things is very much to lean on her Japanese-ness. Those of you who are familiar with Japan and the Japanese may know that they have met and addressed almost every single issue you can imagine in human life and circumstance. There's an answer to, and there's a right way to do it, including death and succession and dealing with, disease and etc. They have it all pretty much covered. So it's like, for Yumiko, it's like, well, I ask these stupid questions that I shouldn't say. She would never call them that. I would ask these questions that seem like nonsense questions. It's like, what if one of us gets sick? Well, to her, especially living in Japan, if we were living in America, the question would be more open. But living in Japan, it's like, well, to Yumiko, it'd be, well, you do what Japanese do when you get sick. Well, what is that? Well, we'll figure that out. She's right. The Japanese have largely figured all this stuff out. So I guess as long as I'm here, and as long as I'm participating in the system here, which is very comprehensive, we'll cover that. I mean, we own our house outright. It's a good sound house, as you can see. We own everything else outright, so we don't have any debt. So we're in good shape, and we got income for the rest of our lives, and we're participants in this circumstance of social welfare here that is really well thought out. It's been over 100 years in operation, and it works. So maybe I just lean on, as long as we're in Japan, I just lean on my wife's observation that we just do what the Japanese do. Sure, if she goes down, it's easier if I go down first because she's Japanese, she can talk to everybody. If she goes down first, that's a little harder, but I think I can manage. You know, I can lean on my daughter to help out, and I've got translation apps, and I always get by. In Japan. There's no circumstance that I've encountered yet that I can't get by on my own, even with my limited Japanese. I think that's because I'm largely fearless when it comes to engaging with the community. At least that's what my daughter says. Again, sorry if I'm going on and on about myself, but this is my journal video, so that's the thing. Emily says, Dad, that your superpower when it comes to living in Japan is that you shy away from nothing. I go into every fray, and I find a way. So I'll find a way. Now, if we were back in the United States, all of this would be different, and Yumiko's perspective would be different too. Let me make sure that window is closed. Let me make sure. Hold on just a second. I needed to make sure that a window in another room was closed, but my wife's sleeping in that room, so I don't want to bring the camera in there. Okay, if we were in the United States, this would all be different, right? Because it's a very different thing over there, but that would be my element. I would, and I'm good at figuring things out. At least I have been to date. My competence is increasingly decreasing. So I think that's all I want to say for that. Oh yeah. So am I ready for death? Yeah, I'm ready for death. My affairs are definitely in order. My relationships are definitely sound. And my life's work is definitely complete. So yeah, bring it on. Number 2, not that I want to die, but I'm ready for it. So he says before the stroke of doom, right? Let's see how confident I am when it really comes, right? Yeah, well, I mean, I won't know until that happens, but I am preparing myself every day, and I'm practicing for death. I'm rehearsing it so that hopefully I'll be ready for it. And it's just because I want to face down death on my 2 feet. It's because if I'm ready for death, that means that that means my life's in good shape, right? That means I'm not watching a rerun of Better Call Saul instead of doing something really important to me to make sure that my life's affairs are in order. You know what I mean? Like if I wake up this morning, if I do this every day, and the second question is, are my relationships sound? And I say, well, mostly, but I've got that one person, we kind of had sour words with, I really should make up to them. It was my fault. I said something sour, I should really make up for them. Well, that would put that in my mind. I would take that probably write that down on my list and say, okay, one of the things I'm going to do, because remember the third element here is, what am I going to do today? I would add it to my list that give that person a call or go over to their house or do something to try to make amends so that tomorrow, when I ask myself, are my relationships sound, I can say, yes, they are. If I didn't do this every day, and if I didn't attend to these things, I might just sit around and watch a Bugs Bunny cartoon instead, or play a video game. Not that I do either of those things. I'm just trying to think of examples of things that I would rather not be doing rather than doing important things. I think I've lingered long enough on the objective number 1. Objective number 2 is to make good and effective use of my time, so that I think I already kind of covered this one, so that I'm living my life in a way and being, and I arrange them deliberately. First, am I ready to die? Because if I'm not ready to die, then I need to rally my time, number 2, to making myself ready to die. So those are ordered. The 1 through 8 were put in that order deliberately. So make good and effective use of my time, so that I'm not wasting this precious day, which becomes really much more important with age. Starting at age 57, so now it's been 4 years. I'm really conscious of death approaching, of my body and mind are definitely both on their way down, and it's irreparable, right? They're not coming back, and it's getting faster. So I wouldn't be surprised, I wouldn't be surprised if I've got just a couple more really good years left. If that. Yeah, I can't waste any time. The third objective is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, so that I have a creed. Because before all of this, I was a Christian, and I would lean on my Christian faith for guidance about how to behave and what constituted a good life, and readiness for death, social engagement, right ways to engage and be a good human being, a good man, a good husband, a good father, all that stuff. Although I left religion long before husband or fatherhood ever showed up. But you see what I mean? When I became a Christian, and I'm not picking on Christianity necessarily. It's just that was the religion that I was. When I became a Christian, I was able to hitch my wagon to not only the it wasn't really an epistemology, it was the philosophy, it was the worldview, and I guess maybe an epistemology, if you consider faith if you consider faith a tool of epistemology, of all that. And I was like, I could wipe my hands of the need to develop my own, right? Because I could align to that. Now, it was only by looking at the foundation of all of that I determined, well, that as good or bad as an apparatus as that may be, it had insufficient grounding to believe that it was true, so I couldn't abide that any longer, and I stopped being a Christian and then went on my own. So then I set out to say, well, now that I can't do that, or I can't at least hang my hat on the Christian worldview anymore. I have to pick up my hat and wear it myself, and go out into the world, going alone, go out into the world and make the world of it as best I can. And that's what I spent the rest of my life doing to date. To develop the 8 objectives and the 35 principles that then are the tools that I use, the roadmap, the grounding, the philosophy, if you will, epistemology even. My epistemology is wrapped up in the good life. To live a good life. So the third objective then is to develop a worldview, develop a creed, and then to maintain and tinker with it. And that's what I've been doing. That's why I do this video every day. This video is ostensibly done to fulfill the mandate of objective number 3. My fourth objective is to cultivate good emotional reactions, so that I get ahead of my emotions, that my reason and my mind and my self-control, my #temperance, my #reason, my #balance are all on top of whatever's going on inside, whatever is happening. It's kind of like a dog pile in a way, because when I was young, the emotions that would be in me would be like a frantic bully on the schoolyard, running around, pushing kids off the swing, kicking sand in people's faces, running around doing mischief. And now, at this age, with the help of my creed, I rally reason, temperance, balance, and other objectives. Think of them as like 3 other kids in the schoolyard that decide we've had enough of this bully, and they climb on top of him and dogpile, and he's down there, and the rest of the school can go on and do their thing without the bully, run rampant throughout the school. So that's what this number 4th objective is all about, is having good emotional reactions. I get upset and frustrated and pissed off just like anybody, but it's really rare that gets any further than about here anymore. It used to be when I was in my 20s, 30s, dare say my 40s, it would get up to here, and sometimes it would come out my mouth, it would come out my eyes and my actions. And thank gosh I don't do that anymore. Gee, what a mess that was. But that doesn't mean that I'm less prone to get pissed off when things don't go the way I expect. I just control it better. That's the objective number 4. Good emotional reactions. Number 5 is to perform good actions relative to my creed, which I do throughout the day, piecemeal, identifying on the fly where virtue can be improved. The state of virtue can be improved. And what is virtue? Virtue is nothing more than improving the well-being of thinking creatures, improving peace and happiness in the world without doing so at the expense of peace and happiness elsewhere, right? Sometimes it's a tricky thing because it can cost you a little bit of peace and happiness to gain on the whole, on the measure, a greater balance of peace and happiness, and that's a trade-off that's worthwhile doing. But so you hashtag reason, hashtag self-control. You get that? Look at this. It's really coming down. And see, the bucket's already full again. How about this one? And my swimsuit's never gonna dry. It's almost full now too. Good. Let's make good use of it. Wow. Hey, where'd the hook thing go? Wow. Let's grab this little camera and have a look too. Rock and roll. There's 10 people. I got 2 lives going. 10 on one, 8 on the other. 18 of you total. Hi, cameras. Let's put this camera here. As I refill my tea with rain. Okay, so that was number 5. Number 6, the 6th objective is to make good and effective use of my time. I already talked about that one. Be always ready to die, to make good and effective use of time, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, to cultivate good emotional reactions, to perform good actions, to recognize my true limits and true opportunities, so that I'm doing things that are within the scope of my capability. Number 7 then, and then not worrying about things that are beyond me. Number 7 is to do just one thing at a time and do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully, says the guy that's running 2 live streams at once. And number 8, the last objective is the objective of balance, which is a consequence of all the others. If I can fulfill the first 7, I can usually enjoy a life of balance. Now, last thing I'm going to do this morning is talk about the next 24 hours. It's a free day. It's Sunday. Although usually almost always on Sunday, I work on my status report for Patreon. So I'll do that. After all this is done, I'll work on my status for Patreon, status report. Also, it's an antique flea market day. We're actually planning to go. So there are some die-hard antique dealers who should have their things going on. So we're going to meet Yoko at 8:30 and go to the flea market at the Jinjo. We're going to go, yeah, I think, unless the ladies decide not to. Okay, let's read any comments and then we'll call this a day. Gerald, hi Gerald. I call examining areas of our lives taking the temperature of our life. As a Christian, it's taking the spiritual temperature of my life. That's a good way to put it. I sometimes describe it as the climate of my life kind of changing. I kind of note in this meditation, I sometimes note the interesting incidents that happen and the experience of the climate change in my life. Tim, there's Tim. Good morning. I think my self-control is now a lot easier as I simply have more time to think about situations compared to work where it needed to be more instant and do the self-control was and so the self-control was harder. Yes, Tim, I think you're right. I think you're right. It felt like we weren't in control because the response time seemed to be immediate, right? Whereas now we can take more time to think about things. I'm glad you pointed that out. I hadn't really considered that. We're out of the fray, right? Tim goes on. I guess in retirement the daily challenges are far less in many ways and not so thought-provoking. That's probably true. Although some of the challenges I find are very deep, like the challenge of meaning in life, right? Which when I was in the fray of work, I really didn't think about meaning as much. I did, certainly, I wrote a book about it, but during my work years. But, my day-to-day stuff were like, how am I going to get this project done on schedule, within scope, and within budget, right? I mean, they weren't deep questions. They were important questions, but they weren't deep. Now that I'm retired, I'm like, I'll be faced with a morning like this and go, what's the meaning of it all, right? that's a weighty one. Tim goes on monies. A good tip I found pre-retirement was once I found out my monthly pension income, I lived on this whilst working for 6 months before I retired. That was a big help. Ooh, that's a great tip, Tim. I like that. Tim says, wow, the rain is insane. It is. Hi, Coda. Been watching since Sushi Baga. Sushi Baga? Is that another video? Well, thank you for watching. I really appreciate that. Sushi Baga? Do you mean baka? Like sushi fool? I'm afraid I don't get the reference. Mog. Hey, Mog. Hi, Kurt. Rain sounds so nice there. Hope you don't flood. Sweden has been great. Really making the most of my time here. Spent the weekend visiting my museum. Going on a day trip tomorrow. Off to bed now. Okay, great. I hope you're having a great time in Sweden. Yeah, and the flooding is usually not too much of a problem here. The infrastructure, at least in this valley, seems to be up to it. At least that's the news from my wife's uncle, who's current head of the family here, and the family's been here for 400 years. Robert, hi Robert. Good morning, Kurt. Hi Maud, Coda, Tim, Gerald. Tim says hi to Robert. Gerald says hi to Robert. Hey, there's Heather. Good morning to you. I love the echo lot. The echo. Oh, is there an echo going on? Been watching the live. Oh, okay. I better stand back. I didn't realize that, but if it sounds good, that's good. Robert says hi to Heather. Heather says hi to Robert. Is this where the kimono stencils? Is this where the kimono stencils from that place? Yes, that's where we're going today. Is where the kimono stencils were. Yep. Yumiko bought 2. Yoko bought 2. I think they're planning to make them into wall art or something like that. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know if that vendor will be there though. He never has anything covering his stuff, and so I doubt and a lot of his stuff is like perishable in the rain. So I have a feeling there's not going to be a lot of vendors. They may even cancel outright. Is that an antique place you might go where the girls got the stencils for the kimonos? Yes, that's the place we're going. Sushi party. Oh, sushi party? Maybe that's what he meant. Oh, hopefully you can find more. Yeah, we might. We might. I got the. You had asked about kimono fabrics. I got these, Heather. I've been listing so many things. I got these 5 beautiful little kimono fabric bundles that I'm going to list this week. I'm probably going to sell them all as a lot. And I've got some sake cups, and these are antique candy molds. And look at this. This is an old pull on a door, but I love the look at the illustration on there. It would have gone on a door like this, but I got that. I think it's made of brass, and this beautiful little sotoban abacus. So those are the items. I'm down to just 5 items. That's all I got. So I need to go antiquing to get more stuff for the store. But the thing is, I'm really picky now about antiquing. Like, I'm calling my store a boutique store because I only list what I like. Well, I mean, I listen to what other people say that they like, and that definitely influences me. Like, it was interesting because I bought those kimono, and Heather, I think you were the one the reason I showed it to you is because you had mentioned something about it. Because we were at that store, that was, I think, last week. We went to that grand opening of that art mart, and then that gallery, and then we found that kimono store, and I showed a glimpse of the kimono store in a video, and I bought those fabric at the kimono store. And I think it was you who had left a comment about, am I going to list kimono fabric? So it was a coincidental arrival of interest, right? You had said I think it was you who said you were interested, and I literally had it in my bag. I was going, wow, okay, when worlds collide. So, but because I'm the way I operate now, before I would be operating like, okay, when I was an antique dealer before, because I had to support a family, I had to make money. I was like, okay, what can I find that's going to turn a buck, right? Make a buck. Now it's like, what can I find that I love and that I want to share with others? After I list it, I'll put it around the house somewhere. Because Yumiko and I keep this stuff around the house. And then if someone buys it, I have to go get it. Like one of you bought her the pruning shears that I listed. And then Yumiko was using them downstairs to prune her flowers. And I came down one day and I said, someone bought your shears, give them over. And she's like, oh, now you need to find me a new pair of shears. That's the way it's fun to operate now. Hopefully we can find more. I think I can. Thank you for letting me know you're referring to the stencils. Thank you for letting me know. I think I know how I can even, the tricky thing with the stencils, Heather, was finding a way to ship them. But what I think I can do is I can get these rolled tubes, and then I can simply roll them up and send them as like scrolls, right? So this conversation is helping me because I like those stencils, but I wasn't sure how I could ship them. But now, based on my conversation with you, an idea just came to me. And Heather says that's what she would do too. And then Heather says darumas. Ah, yes. I have been keeping an eye out for darumas. I saw one at a store this week, but it was a little bit, I think the word would be pedestrian, just because you can get darumas that are just like, well, they're a dime a dozen, right? I mean, you see that same type of daruma. They can be really nice, but they're not special. I'm like I want to find darumas that like have something interesting about them, right? But I remember you mentioned that, and I have had it on my mind. I've been keeping an eye out. Your requests, Heather, are in my head, and it's helping to tune my vision. I've been waiting to see them listed. Oh, yeah. Well, the problem with the fabrics is I've been just waiting. They're a little tricky. I'm trying to decide how to do the photography. I need to snip one open to figure out how big it is, because I need to list how big the fabric size. My thought with the fabric was it would be a great item for like a quilter, right? I mean, imagine. These are 100-year-old. That's from the Taisho period. It's from the Taisho period, possibly the Meiji period. Because the woman that ran the store, I said, because they're in beautiful condition, I said, these got to be Showa. She said, no, they're at least Taisho, maybe sooner than that. So these are beautiful chirimen, the highest quality kimono fabric. And I'm picturing them for like quilters, you know, or something, or maybe like make a doily. Someone that's handy with a needle and thread could do something really interesting with them. So they're in my mind, but I gotta list them this week because I don't have anything else, right? Some of the kimonos are gorgeous, and even used ones can be used as art. I agree. Yes, tubes work. You agree, Heather? All right. I buy prints from an artist, and she sends the prints on tubes. Wonderful to know. I've heard people also sending printed stuff on like pizza box type boxes. You know, the flat art. Yay, different. Not so touristy. Exactly. I'm looking for fabrics for curtains. The fabrics, if not too large, could be framed in. Tim, you're exactly right. I agree. They would be beautiful to frame. I want to show you something. Since we're talking Daruma, Heather, this is what I mean by run-of-the-mill standard issue Daruma. This is the kind of Daruma you see everywhere. But the reason, so why do I have this? Well, the reason is special. This Daruma, I used to carry this in my store, the same make, back when I was an antique dealer before, because I knew the family that made these, which were in Shizuoka. And at the time, it was 4 people in their 70s and 80s still running the factory that had been operating for over 200 years, making these by hand. You see, this is number 12. And I had been selling their Daruma for the time that I was an antique dealer. Since Japan's got a bit of a problem because there's no young people to take over the businesses, including the crafts industry. So all 4 of those people have since passed on and died. There was no one to keep up the tradition. That beautiful store that they had is now a parking lot. I found this at an antique store in Yaizu, and I recognized it as coming from that factory, and I actually asked the owner of the antique store, I said, is that any possible that this comes from that little Daruma factory in downtown that's no longer existence? The look on his face, he literally said, he says, yes, that's exactly where it comes from. And he's like, how did you know about it? Well, you know, it's because I had business with it. So I bought it. I'm not going to sell it. This is mine, and I keep it to remember that family. And it stays down here. out of reach of my sales hands. Okay, let's see if there's any more comments. You can place the prints in a paper and roll. Yes, I could. You know what, you're Heather, you are opening my mind to the whole thing. I even know where to get those rolls. I know a store in town, because I did this before when I was an antique dealer. I would sell prints and roll them up and ship them around. I'm going to do it. The other thing about prints was storage, right? Because right now, I'm proud of the fact that everything in my store fits on that shelf right there. This is my entire store. I call it softypapa's shelf. You know, this is sold. One of you who bought that is here. This is sold. Gerald bought one of these. I've got 2 more of those left. And this is everything that's sold. That's for sale. The books are not for sale. These are my 200-year-old collection of the collected works of Dr. Johnson. I just don't have a better place to put them. So the thing is, I'm kind of proud of the fact that my entire store fits on a shelf. That means it's very compact, very boutique, very select, right? If I start buying art prints, they won't fit on that shelf. In fact, I'm running out of space. So I guess I have to break this idea that softypapa's shelf, right? It's everything on a shelf. Because if I'm going to expand my store, then I'm going to have to do that. And I'm going to do that. And fortunately, this is a pretty big house for just the 2 of us. We've got a whole room right there that's not being used. Our bedroom is enormous. It's got walls of shelves that aren't being used. So I guess I'll just have to start putting stuff in boxes and putting it away. Okay. So no more softypapa shelf, but that's okay. In the interest of expansion. Yep, the touristy kind. Yep, you know the type I'm talking about. I don't really want to list the touristy kind. I want to list the ones that I want to list the ones like when I'm in it and I see them. And when I'm at the antique flea market or at an antique store and I see it and they go, I go, oh, the kind that I would call Yumiko over and I would grab it and they go, okay, I got to show you. Okay, hold on. You guys stay here for just a second. I'll show you something that will illustrate the point. Stay here and look at the rain for a second. Actually, I'll bring you with me. Come with me. Through the darkened house. Down to our Genkan entryway. So, Yumiko and I wanted a Daruma a tanuki for our entryway. This is our tanuki. This is not your standard issue tanuki, right? I mean, by any chance, it doesn't even have a hat. Look at those eyes, right? So this is not for sale. This is our tanuki, and yeah, he's different, right? And as soon as Yumiko is the one that found this, and we were like, well, that's the tanuki for us, right? That's what I want to do with the Daruma, etc., right? Find the ones that stand out. Something different about it. Rudy. Rudy's going to need to go out in the rain soon. Whoa, the wind is blowing now. Okay, I think that's it. Let me read if there's any more comments. Heather says, still at softypapa shelf, just version 2.0. There you go. Expanded. He's different. He certainly is. Kind of like the little guy and his wife art print I got from you. Yeah, that's exactly right. And by the way, the real little guy and his wife are right here, Heather. That's the little guy and his wife that I refer to, that Emily's toys that I have now. Okay, well, I think that's it. One last look at the rain, everybody. Heather says, I told my husband the story about the backstory why I called the little guy and his wife. That's nice. It was so cute. Emily would play with them. In Japan, they say, they don't say wife, they say little guy, and little guy's okusan. Okusan is the word for wife. Okay, and the live cam is still going. I have the bricks here in case the wind comes up so it won't knock it over. And my tea is nicely refreshed with rainwater. The maples seem happy. Back to the live. Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, and the bucket is full again. Let's give it one last scoop. I like making good use of this rainwater to clean the deck. And let's take a look at the humidity and temperature. 90%, look at that. Over 90% humidity and 25 degrees. It's almost taken off the shirt weather. All right, thanks everybody for joining me. It was a long one today. Wish you all the best. Heather says, oh, what was the fireworks that happened now a day ago? Was that on the live? Oh, okay. That you would have seen if they happen right now, you would see them again. They happen there every night. Believe it or not, Heather, every night. Right over that hill, there's a hotel up on the mountaintop up there. This is called the Nihon Daira, and there's a really fancy hotel up there, and it's kind of like Disneyland. How Disneyland has a fireworks show every night. The Nihon Daira has a fireworks show every night. It's short. It lasts just a few minutes, and it's far enough away that it really can't hear the booms. But if I'm sitting here on the porch in the evening, just at the right time, I'll see them just above the tree line there. Bam, bam, bam. And you caught it. I was telling you, Miko, that the other day. I was telling you, Nico, I said, because we were driving home last night from dinner, and we could see the fireworks going on, and I said, Heather saw the fireworks from the live, because they had the live going last night. I don't know if it was pointed right. If it was like this, you'd be able to see them. That's great that you saw it. Yeah, just like Disneyland, Heather. Nope, it wasn't a festival. It's a nightly event. So all the guests at the hotel after dinner, it's kind of a fancy place, you know, bow ties and stuff like that. Yeah, oh, I'm glad the ankle was perfect. All right, take care, everybody. Have a great day. Be safe, but not too safe. And I will, for those of you that have orders that came in this week, I know I had several purchases in the last couple of days. I couldn't mail it because I can't mail it out because it's the weekend. I told you, Miko, I'm going to be busy on Monday, tomorrow, getting your orders shipped out to you, including tea. And by the way, the family that runs the tea, that owns the tea factory, they're thrilled that the tea is so well received. I've run out 3 times. I have to go back tomorrow to the tea factory to get more tea, and she was thrilled about that. And I'm thinking about expanding from tea bags to have loose tea as well, so that people can order it like in a regular bag. But if you have the loose tea, then you need all the other contraptions, the teapot, etc., and a proper teacup. Maybe you want all that. You can see where this is headed, right? I'm going to wind up with a tea store, which is fine, right? I mean, it's the Valley of Tea. Okay, take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye, Heather. Bye-bye, everybody. Take care, Tim. Bye, Gerald. Bye, everybody. Bye, Robert. Bye, anybody I forgot.